Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
I'm Josh.
And we're back. It's been another week, as you guys can imagine, and we're back with another interview. This time with a certain Brian Wood. If you've ever heard of the comic books TMZ, Northlanders, The Massive, those are all creator-owned books by Channel Zero. That's another creator-owned book by Brian Wood. If you've ever seen the video game case for Grand Theft Auto 3 or Grand Theft Auto Vice City or Manhunt. Manhunter was a...
Manhunt. Yeah.
Manhunt.
Yeah, Manhunter was the prequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Sort of.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Red Dragon.
It was
basically.
based on the prequel.
Yeah, directed by Michael Mann, too.
Yeah.
But, so Brian Wood designed probably the most iconic video game cover for the PlayStation 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we do touch on that too. He's also written for both DC and Marvel. Specifically with Marvel, he's written like the X-Men. He's written Moon Knight. With Dark Horse, he's written Star Wars. He's written Conan the Barbarian. He is a very prolific writer. We're very happy to have him on the show. He's promoting his current book, Starve, which the first trade is out today in comic book shops everywhere. You can get it on Comixology. And if you listen in the future, you'll see our review of the book. And the next arc 2, starts with the 6th issue on Wednesday, February 17th. Again, also available in comic shops everywhere and on Comixology. And now, without much further ado, let's talk to Brian Wood. And joining us is Brian Wood. He's gotten he's very prolific comic book writer. He's written for Star Wars. He's written with the X-Men. He's written Moon Knight, which is a favorite of Jake's. He's written
Absolutely.
Conan the Barbarian, another favorite of Jake's.
Absolutely.
He's done a lot of creator-owned work, the DMZ, the Massive, Northlanders, which is awesome. If you haven't read Northlanders yet and you love like Viking kind of fiction, definitely check that out. But right now he's writing Starve with Image Comics with his Brian. How do you pronounce your artist name again?
It's all right. Believe me, it took me years to actually figure it out. It's Daniel Zizej.
Daniel Zizej. There you have it.
He's a Croat, I believe. He's from Croatia.
Oh wow. The first trade is out today because this Wednesday. And you can get the start of the second arc, issue 6, on Wednesday, February 17th. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you.
So the big thing that, and stop me if this sounds completely obvious, but you really know a lot about cooking.
It's funny you say that because that means obviously I'm doing my job right because I really don't. I guess that means I'm a good writer.
Absolutely.
I'm just a fan of the TV shows. Really, that's what it comes down to. I've just been watching like Iron Chef and Top Chef for like a decade, and I read a couple of books. Like there's biographies of like Anthony Bourdain and a few other of the really famous chefs.
All right, like Kitchen
So I
Confidential.
would like kind of read them just to get a sense of some like attitudes and the general vibe and whatever. But really, it's just like, I just sort of, like, I'm a fan of these shows, and I'm writing a comic about a cooking show, so it's pretty easy to sort of, make it sound right.
Now, you mentioned you were a fan of, you mentioned Bourdain for Kitchen Confidential and presumably No Reservations. Would I be out of line kind of assuming that Gavin, the main character of Starve, is kind of loosely based off Anthony Bourdain?
You'd say that. He's sort of like, he's Anthony Bourdain, and there's this other famous chef who does not have a TV show, so he's not super famous. But his name is Marco Pierre White, and he's very much like the long-haired, Keith Richards of the chef scene.
Yeah.
Sort of like that bad boy, cigarette hanging off his bottom lip type of look. So it's sort of like a combination of the both. It's got a bit of Iggy Pop in there too.
It's kind of very devil-may
care. For good measure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we see him, he's drinking soju, and then, of course, he's like, he knows all the haunts in New York City, like 70s era Keith Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, I'm playing a little fast and loose with his age and with the dates and everything, but I really just wanted to like evoke that sort of like old New York where it was like sketchy and dangerous and like the seedy underbelly of the kitchen world.
And you're kind of combining, because DMZ, of course, largely took place in New York City, and of course, Starve primarily also takes place in New York City. What is it about New York and kind of portraying it in a very dystopian kind of light?
I don't know. It's sort of. I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a cliche. Like so much fiction takes place here. You know, that every time I start a new project, and I set it here, which is where I live. And so, like, is this one too many? Have I done this too many times? But I mean, obviously, there's something appealing about it in like a mass appeal kind of way, because like of all the TV shows and movies and everything. As like a resident, I've lived here maybe 23 years. I've always sort of, well, I should say initially, I got a real perverse kick out of like messing it up, you know? Like I lived here, I'm like, yeah, New York's cool, but what if it was like more badass? What if it was like sketchier and awesome? And you know, and so I sort of, I mean, that was my thinking back then with like my first couple of books, you know. But I mean, I think with DMZ it was kind of different, because it was like I wasn't just trying to have fun with it, you know. DMZ was like a serious book.
Yeah, it was very much.
And I began to feel kind of bad. I'm like, man, I'm really putting my city through the ringer. Like I'm really, you know. So I made a point, you know, in DMZ to sort of, I mean, it's an uplifting story in the end. Like the city itself is a character in the book, and it perseveres. And I use the book to sort of show the spirit of the city and its vast melting pot and its ability to sort of rebound from like the worst things, you know.
Yeah.
So now it's sort of like, I mean, I feel like it's part of my identity as like a comic book writer, you know, like I'm the guy that does the New York stuff. I kind of always have.
Well,
and I always try to do it right in the end, even if I put the city through hell. You know, I make it shine at the end.
Which was kind of a bit of a loop, because a recurring theme, especially with like say The Massive, is that we're seeing societies that are largely due to in crises of their own making, and in the case of Starve, they're turning to the show as kind of an escape, even though they're totally cool with hunting the bluefish to extinction. If they're totally cool, like killing pigs on live television, what is it about that kind of like humanity has kind of doomed itself and isn't too interested in pulling itself out?
Well, the interesting thing is, I feel like after you've seen a couple of issues of the book, like in that first issue, it's like, oh, the world sucks, and here's the 1% who have like created a bubble for themselves to protect themselves from like the crazy world. But the world is not crazy. Like, you know, it's like, as we see in subsequent issues, like everybody lives there. It's pretty much, you know, it's like, I mean, it's not great, you know, obviously time has passed and things are going on. But then you're sort of like, well, why is that 1% sequestering themselves like that? Like, what are they actually afraid of, you know? And so that was sort of like my little personal point I was trying to make, if only for myself, is like, you know, they're just afraid of, it's like when people talk about the other, they're just afraid of the world, because it's like they're becoming less, you know, like it's overtaking them.
Right.
You know, it's like somebody who's like an old school racist in America. They're super mad now because the world is moving ahead without them.
Yeah,
you know,
changing.
And so, you know, so these people are the same way. And so what they do is their sort of way to push back is to sort of turn the misery of the rest of the world into their entertainment. You know, it's like, ooh, we're going to eat this gross meat that all the poor people eat, or we're gonna, like, you know, we're gonna extinct this fish and it's awesome, we're gonna laugh at it, you know, because we can, because we're assholes or whatever, you know. So that's sort of their thing, but it's all rooted in like a lack of it's rooted in fear and the idea of like they're losing their grip on the world like their personal world, which is, extinct as well.
Right. And I think Jake was mentioning that one of his favorite moments in the first volume of Starve comes when the judge has her reaction to eating the blue fish.
Yeah. She just breaks down and is sobbing.
Right, because Gavin popped a bubble for her. Like, she couldn't pretend anymore. And I also I give Daniel, my artist, a lot of credit, because my script for that issue had the judge puking it up like that, and Gavin's like, yeah, man, screw you, or whatever. And Gavin's like, no, or Daniel's like, no, he should puke it up too. He ate it too. There's no reason why he should have a bad reaction as well, because it's a terrible thing. So I'm like, oh, of course, duh. So I really give Daniel credit, because I really feel like that issue would have ended on a real bum note, if I had done it my original way.
Right, and there is something. I mean, Gavin it doesn't have it all as figured out as he seems. Spoilers for everyone who hasn't read the first volume of Starve. We're going to kind of get into that a bit, but by the end of that first volume, we're seeing his kind of epiphany, or I guess come to Jesus moment, where he's like, even though my ex-wife just literally tried to kill me on the air, I'm going to try to do right by her, and more so do right by my daughter. So what was that always kind of in the making, that Gavin wouldn't try to always be the kind of king shit figure?
Well, I feel like the book, the book is presented as a food book or a cooking book first. That's its primary identity. But what's most important to me as the one writing it is the core of the book, which is Gavin's sort of relationship or lack thereof with his family, and also the fact that he's not a mature person. He's 50 years old, but because of his fame and money, and because of the fact he worked he was a workaholic or something, he never actually grew up the way one is supposed to. He always sort of was living in a state of suspended college years. Despite the fact he was married and had a kid, it was clear that he was absent. Off doing his thing. So now he's back, and he's old, and he's there's the opportunity to just fall right back into that life again. It's right there if he wants it. And a big theme of this book is him sort of figuring out what he actually wants, or what he should want, what he should do.
It also feels like the emotional core is the relationship between him and the daughter. I suppose that he had been off the map for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, it's sort of and we sort of drop hints that he wasn't really super present, even when he was there. I think that I'm already on writing issue 9, so I forget what's in the first trade and what's not. But there's lines I've dropped about how he rolls into the house in the morning after staying out all night. That kind of thing. So he wasn't such a present father the way he should have been.
What's the headspace with Roman, who also kind of had his own epiphany moment in that fifth issue, which closes out the first volume?
I really like the kind of the live television aspect. They go to commercial break. He's like, by the way, I got to tell you this. You're in serious shit here. Get out of here. And then they cut back. He's like, and we're back. And it's just very...
Yeah, all that stuff is so much fun to write. Almost writes itself. Roman's just it's his old friend who's now kind of a rival, and you sort of get the sense that they were always sort of a rival, even when they were friends. They always sort of had that relationship. And Gavin going off the map or off the grid was really the best thing that ever happened to Roman, because suddenly he could stop being second place. So he really just kind of took Gavin's spot. Took over his show. Basically walked in, and it's awesome. So obviously Gavin coming back is the biggest possible threat to him. It's all going to happen all over again. So he's definitely invested in sort of keeping Gavin down. And like a component of the second arc is sort of, we kind of see like you said, he maybe has looks like he might be turning around, and so that kind of plays out in the second arc.
Without giving too much away, though, I feel like by its very nature, this question are we? What is Gavin's ex-wife? What is Greer's headspace now that she's tried to stab her husband on national television?
It's crazy because I was really nervous launching this book because, especially in that first issue, she comes off really bad. Like, she does not come off. There's zero redeeming qualities there, and we would eventually get there. And so I was just like sweating it out that I wasn't going to get like pinged for writing like a horribly one-dimensional character like that. But she's been really wronged. I mean, I think there's a line in one of the second arc's issues, which is not a spoiler, but Gavin basically admits that he, like, as far as Angie goes, he was like the laid back parent. He was the fun parent. He was like the joking around, rolling in the morning, sinking of booze, having fun, laughing. Like, he represented no rules. And so by default, that made Greer the strict parent, the cop, right? The one that was always telling Angie no when Gavin was always saying yes. And so she's a resent of that, like all her life, or all of Angie's life. On top of the fact that Gavin's gay. And so their marriage is kind of like, it's not a sham, but it really wasn't what she thought she was getting. And so has reasons for all her beef, and was basically unable to communicate that to Gavin until she stuck him with a knife. Which is, I guess, what it took. And again, that kind of plays out in the second arc.
Well, I did like that, even after he gets stabbed and his daughter's like, I hate her, she's terrible, I hate her. And like you were saying, he's still very much like, look, she has every reason to hate me. Like you were saying, it's the good cop, bad cop thing that put her in this very difficult position.
I mean, and that's him. I mean, that's the kind of thing that he has to do in his redemption arc, is sort of like understand that, sort of have empathy and see things, see what it looks like on the other side of his shenanigans.
Now, this is the you've previously worked with Daniel on The Massive. What is there any?
And on D&Z and on Northlanders.
Right. So what is it about Daniel that you keep coming back for more?
Well, I was like a fan of his for a long time. That guy, I mean, he's been around in American comics for like a while, but usually in like small roles. But he's got like almost 20 comics published in like France and other European countries. Like, he's got a lot of books out, and I've as an art student, I had a bunch of them. And I just appreciated it. I couldn't read them, but I really loved his work. And so when I was doing DMZ at Vertigo, my editor is like, I can get that guy to do a fill-in. And I'm like, wow. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was literally like I had that guy so high up on a pedestal. It was crazy. Like, the thought that I could get somebody like that, like an idol of mine, like, it never occurred to me. And so we did it, and we did it a couple more times on DMZ, and then on Northlanders a couple of times, and then the Massive. And each time, like, I'm not friends with him. I mean, we don't chat. He lives in Europe, and he's not a very talkative guy, so it's not like I really know him all that well, but we've been doing all this work together for years. And finally, he was like, I'm tired of always doing fill-ins. Like, I want to do my own book with you. So let's do it. So that was, I mean, it was as easy as that, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's gorgeous.
But I just, like, there's something about it. His is not a commercial style. Like, it never will be. But I respond to it in a way that I just can't put it into words. Like, I love every single panel that guy draws. So.
Okay, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Hickman by way of Latour.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too. Like, it's interesting to hear you say that you guys, him being in Europe, you don't have like a real relationship on the terms of talking outside of comics, because there's such a chemistry on the page, the way that the pages are laid out, and I feel like you guys have this really great chemistry.
We definitely click, and it's really like, it's not for anything I'm doing. I always like to joke about what it's like to work with that guy, because it's so novel. And what happens is I send him a script, and he'll write back the word thanks or something, like unbelievably brief. And then I don't hear a peep out of him for like three weeks, and then the entire finished comic arrives. Like there's no pencils, there's no thumbnails, there's no questions. It just comes, and it's perfect. Like, it's perfect for me. Like, I look at this and I'm like, there's nothing I would have asked him to change if this was like a pencil or something. And it's weird, but that's how it works. And I've never had to ask him to like change a single thing in all the issues we've done. And so on one hand, it's a great working relationship, but it's also almost like the absence of a relationship, because we don't talk,
Well,
it's weird. It's good. It's good, but it's weird.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And some of our listeners might not know this, but you also come from an art background yourself. You designed. You were a designer for Rockstar Games on Manhunt, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, which is me and Chris's favorite. Does that inform how you work with artists at all?
Yeah, I mean, I went to art school. I wanted to draw comics. That was my original plan. That was like my dream. And I did. My first book, Channel Zero, was a book that I wrote and drew. But it quickly became obvious to me a couple of things. One, that I'm really slow. I'm slow in the sense of what's required to draw comics, right?
Sure.
And
keep up a monthly schedule.
But yeah, there was like no way in hell I could ever do that, or even close. And secondly, just my style is not polished or commercial enough. Like, I can do this one thing, and like, it works great on like covers once in a while, but for like a comic, like, no editor would ever accept that, So I sort of like, my shift from drawing to writing was unintentional, and it was gradual. And in that middle time, like in that sort of, after I did my first book, I was working at all these regular jobs, and and I was a designer at a Rockstar Games, and basically the easiest way for me to describe what I did is I did everything but the game. So I would do like all the ads you saw in every magazine. I'd do the logos, the box, the manuals, basically everything that wasn't the game. I did the art on the disc,
Yeah, I don't mean to blow any hot air, but I remember being in high school when GTA 3 and Vice City came out, and that was like huge.
It was a crazy time. It was a cool time. There's a movie about that. Have you guys watched that?
Not the
movie about Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto.
It's on my list now.
Yeah. It's called the Game Changers.
Oh,
It's like a TV movie.
Yeah, I saw that. It's really good. It's basically chronicles like more or less Grand Theft Auto as it evolved through Rockstar Games, and basically brought Rockstar Games into the mainstream.
Yeah, and specifically that scandal they had with like the X-rated content in San Andreas. Yeah, it was weird because that was basically my life for like a period of time on there. I wasn't portrayed in the film, but like a lot of my friends were. It was weird. That was crazy. It's funny you mentioned Vice City, because there was such an insane amount of pressure when they were launching that game, because 3 was such a huge hit, and it took everybody by surprise. And they had all this pressure, and they rushed out of Vice City. And I remember, like, I'm prepping the box files.
Yeah.
And my boss is like, "Are you sure this is right?" Like, he's like I'm packaging up all the files to send to the printer, and he's like, "Is everything good here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's great. All the fonts are there. Everything's right." And he's like, "Because we're going to print 6 million of these things. So is everything right?" And I'm like, "Yes." It's like the most stressful thing ever.
Yeah.
But it was also like really cool at the time, you know. I did the Grand Theft Auto logo myself and my art director.
I mean, it's huge, man. It's huge.
That's the most
sweet.
famous thing I've ever done. Forget the X-Men, you know. It was that one logo.
I mean, I have that first issue. I love that you had the in all the fandoms that you've worked with, because you've written Conan, though I don't know how vocal the Conan fan base is, but you've worked with Star Wars, and you've worked with X-Men, which are very high profile fan bases, huge.
Yeah.
Have you had any, like, of course gamers can be very vocal as well. Have you how has your relationship with those been?
Well, it was fine. I don't really, like, me and company-owned comics are not a natural fit, which is why I'm not really doing so much of them now. It's just, like, honestly, I couldn't even tell you why. Like, it was never easy. Like, it was always like a battle and a struggle, and I didn't have like such a wealth of knowledge about the Marvel U or the
convoluted history of the X-Men.
It was really hard. I was never a right fit, and I could never give, like, specifically Marvel, I could never give them what they seemed to want. I don't know. It was like a kind of a rough time. But the X-Men fans were basically fine. The Star Wars fans, they weren't as visible to me, you know, as the comic book fans were, but that was basically fine. The Conan fans were scary.
Really?
Well, I should
Few but loud.
point out, I'm talking about a very small slice of Conan fandom.
Sure.
Yeah.
And in their minds, the only Conan that was ever worth a damn was the 1970s black and white Conan.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it's not that, then it's crap. Right? And so our Conan, by editorial directive, was like a leaner Conan. He wasn't like Mr. Universe. He was supposed to be like more like Panther-like was the word that was
I've never
used.
liked
And, like,
super
leaner and younger, right?
Yeah.
And they hired Becky Cloonan to like draw him. So her Conan was not the 1970s Savage Sword Conan.
Yeah.
And so in the mind of these fans, it was the fag Conan. And I was the fag writer that was writing the fag Conan. And I just got all this horrible, I'm sorry to use that word, but I just got all this horrible abuse at me.
Yeah.
Like insults.
We know that
and
those
like
aren't
attacks.
words. Yeah.
And all this stuff, because I wasn't doing this thing, and it was all like, you know, homosexually tinged insults. It was like the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen in my career.
Yeah. I mean,
and it really wore me down. Like, I had a difficult time with it, and it was hard to like it would like arrive at me. Like, I couldn't just avoid it. You know, it would. You know, there are even critics on websites, on major comic book websites, that were like that hated me for it. You know, so. I enjoyed that book. It was a difficult book because I was doing what the client wanted, but this core group of fans were going to like make sure I knew how they felt every single month, you know.
Jeez. And then those that I feel like those vehemently like pissed off fans that you can do no right because they've got that level of bias already.
Right. Yeah. It was. But and I do stress it wasn't a large group. It wasn't like all the Conan fans were like that. But
it was like the Westboro
They were the loudest ones, so, you know. So that was just really weird. I look back on that and I'm like, man, those emails I got, you know,
how did they get your
really strange.
That's crazy. Well, no, it's like I'm not a like I like Conan a lot. I'm not an expert by any stretch, and I'm like working my way up to your Conan stuff. I started with the Kurt Busiek, like Born on the Battlefield, and really enjoyed that a lot. And the mythology of it. But yeah, for me, like a more leaner, like you said, Panther-like Conan makes way more sense because, like,
Schwarzenegger?
You know, the Schwarzenegger Super Jack Conan can't hold a sword properly, you know, like he can't, like, you know.
Well, and also the story I was hired to like adapt, he was like really young, and like he was like 20. You know, he wouldn't have gotten all grizzled and massive,
sure.
You know, at that point. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but and so I mean, I take some pleasure because a lot of the comments I got were like, "I've been collecting Dark Horse Conan for years, and now because I'm not buying yours, I'm going to have a hole in my shelf of Conan, and I'm like, awesome.
Yeah,
that just made my day. I'm like, thank you for that. Now I'm happy that I caused a hole in your obsessive collection of Conan books.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
Jake, you were a big fan of. I mean, because you mentioned that you weren't quite comfortable with, or you feel that you didn't deliver what Marvel was. Some of the stuff Marvel was asking for. Jake is a huge fan of your Moon Knight stuff.
Yeah,
that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I have zero complaints about that, because that was like that was pretty much free of anybody else's book. You know, I didn't have to sit in like strategy meetings with all the editors about it and everything like I did with the X-Men. So it was easier to just kind of do my own thing, and you know.
No Moon Knight crossover events.
Well, I feel like Moon Knight, like, he is like a gnat's fart away from being like the next big thing, I think, you know, because I feel like, you know, with the way that, you know, Daredevil and Jessica Jones on Netflix is going, I get the idea that Marvel seems very comfortable with the darker characters on like a Netflix thing. And so I feel like, you know, your kind of stuff, the Warren Ellis Moon Knight as well, the recent Moon Knight stuff would be a great jumping on point for something like that, because what is it like to get into the head of Mark Spector, because he's one of
Stephen Grant
or Jake Lockley, you know any of those guys, because like he's such a fascinating character and there's so much you can do with him.
It was a fun job. It was also kind of a not a great job to like step into, because nobody wanted Warren to leave, you know. Like, you know, everybody loved Warren's take on that, and Warren took himself out, and I just had to be the one that wasn't Warren, you know. Yeah. And so I walked in, and I was like, man, you know, no one wants Warren to leave. It's going to be, these are tough shoes to fill. So the goal that I set for myself, like in my own head, was like, just like, don't change it too much.
Yeah.
Don't mess it up. You know, don't give them, you know, don't copy Warren. Like, I'm not trying to copy Warren, but don't give anybody any reason to leave. You know, I'm not here to like shake up the place. You know, I want to, you know, that book launched really, really strong. I want to keep everybody, you know, as much as I can. So, you know, I was really pushing for like doing just keep doing these single issues like Warren was, but the editor said maybe try to make it more of an arc. So I tried to find some middle ground there, but aside from that, I really was not trying to rock the boat. But everything was great. Like, my artist was great, the colors was great, like the setup was obviously great. It was a very enjoyable book. I would have stayed on there longer if I could have.
All those the layouts for all those books were fascinating. You know, with Warren Ellis had like that sniper issue where like the panels disappear as the characters are killed off. Yeah. On your run, issue 8 was my favorite of your run, where he's dealing with the New World Trade Center, and it's all done through like security footage and streamed, and you just see him going. He like kicks the shit out of that one guy, and he's like telling him as he's breaking his bones like what he's doing. And I really enjoyed your Moon Knight stuff a lot. And I gotta say, like, I'm not just blowing smoke here either. I was working at a comic shop at the time when the switch was happening from Warren Ellis to you, and I mean you won a lot of people over with your stuff, and it wasn't just like you're saying good. It wasn't from just copying or anything like this. There was still enough of a difference there that me and my little Moon Knight friends who were picking up the book rapidly saw it and really enjoyed it, and
we have afternoon tea socials.
Yeah, exactly. We each play one of his personalities, but no, we all we all still love the book, and it stayed strong at the shop, so you did your job well with that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear.
And you were saying at the shop, because you were working there when Starve debuted, you were saying that opened to like kind of rave.
Oh yeah. I mean, Starve was huge, and that was a book that
really, that's good.
Yeah, Starve was big.
I'm glad to hear that, because it really went under the radar. Like, that book has several things stacked against it, which I feel like is sort of like an unconventional art style. And also, like, I remember when I would explain Starve to someone before I had a copy of it to like show them, they just thought it was weird. They're like, "What? A cooking show? What?" Like, and so I was like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna have to sweat it out until the book comes out," because I feel like once they see it, then it makes sense, But I feel like that was like a real uphill battle. Like when I was doing like my early round of like press and talking to retailers and stuff, because everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
Well, Jake and I also worked with Image Comics at San Diego this past summer, and of course, Starve had one of the variant.
That's right.
San Diego variant.
Oh, right,
covers.
yeah.
And that, at least from what I noticed, of the variant covers that we were carrying, was the one that people wanted the most.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, cool. Well, good.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, since you used to write Star Wars for Dark Horse.
Yep.
Have you seen The Force Awakens, and what did you think of it?
Overall, I enjoyed it a lot. I felt like I went through peaks and valleys watching it. Like there were parts I was like couldn't believe how much I loved, and then it was like I was just waiting for like a while, you know. So it wasn't, it was like up and down for me. I just honestly like, and I'm not even saying this is bad, because I really enjoyed it, but it was so weird. Like there was like a scene for scene remake.
It's like Mad Libs,
Yeah.
And I had to watch it a second time, because the first time that's all I could think about. I was like, oh man, don't tell me this is coming up now. Yeah, they did it. They did it. You know, they're like scene for scene. I couldn't, like each scene, I couldn't believe it. You know. And so I watched it a second time, and then once I had gotten all of that out of my system, you know, it was a lot more fun to watch. But I, like, as a creative person, like as like a writer, that like I found that strange, you know.
I do.
Obviously, it's making $100 billion.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know.
Well, it's
so
very much,
all is well. But I mean, I can imagine that like it's kind of a risk to do that, you know.
At the same time, I feel like they were playing it safe. They're like, stick with what works.
Yeah, it's got to be like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because at the same time,
right?
J.J. Abrams probably like, oh God, if I do something different here, I'm gonna get crucified. But then he did.
I'm sure that was a stressful job.
Yeah.
And it worked for Creed just fine.
Yeah, it worked for Creed. That's for sure.
But
Creed I liked a lot too. I really like that film.
So that kind of touches on something we try to ask everybody that comes on the show. What are you currently geeking out over, be it movies or music or TV or books?
I'm sort of like I never watch anything or read anything when it's actually coming out. Like I'm the guy that always comes to everything late. So and then I like binge consume, whatever it may be. When it comes to books, most of honestly what I do is I'm reading research for my writing, which is very, very boring, but it's a reality. I watch Fargo. Like I really like that show.
Yeah, Billy Bob. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I watched that like first one. I'm getting into the second one, which is different, but I'm into it. Trying to make my way through True Detective, which is slow going.
Season 2?
The Abridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Abridge I like a lot. What am I thinking about? I'm starting to get into a show called Blood and Oil, which I don't know. It's either the greatest thing I've ever seen or it's not. It's kind of a strange show. It has Don Johnson in it, and I'll watch anything that guy does. But comics, like, it's weird. Like I feel like it's almost like cliche, but I just don't read a lot of them. Like it's almost like I always make the joke, and I mean it as like a joke, but there's a kernel of truth, where it's like when you know how a hot dog is made, so suddenly you're not so into eating hot dogs anymore. And I feel like because I've made comics, like I know too much about everybody making them. Like I know too much about that writer. I know too much about that editor. So I can never like lose myself in the story because I'm picking apart the process. Like I'm like, oh, this artist is great. Like I'm thinking about that. You're like, oh, I should try to get this artist on this other book, and I'm not paying attention to what I'm reading. Or I'm like, oh, that editor, I can't believe they'll let that typo through. Like I'm busy thinking about the behind the scenes stuff, and I've sort of lost the ability to just like lose myself in a book purely, like I used to be able to in my years of youth. But before I was like, I'm just too much of like an insider, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you've seen the
So
man
when I do read a book, I wait till there's like 3 trades, and I sit down and I just like eat them all up at once and try to like sort of get into it that way, because I cannot read them monthly at all.
Any trades really leap out lately?
Well, I tend to follow creators, and usually friends of mine. So like Jason Aaron, I like a lot. So I like his Southern Bastards, which is like, I mean, as good a writer as Jason is, the art and the production on that is amazing. So I read that. Like I read Warren Ellis's books, So like anybody who's like a friend of mine like that, a lot of Kieran Gillen's books I'll read. So Matt Kent, although I can't read those Valiant books, but I read his Dark Horse stuff.
Sure.
So that's usually what I do.
All right. So. Well, Brian, to close us out, what can we expect from Arc 2 and issue number 6 of Starve?
Well, I can say this because I had to write it for the previews catalog. The little slogan for the second arc is that Gavin goes from the sound stage to the streets, which is like a little slogan-y sounding kind of thing. But what that basically means is like so he comes back. He's like, I'm gonna tear down Starve. I'm gonna like show everybody what hollow pieces of crap they are, and get everybody back for like ruining my show. But as you can see, and what Gavin realizes, is that he's like back in the show and he's winning and he's having fun. So he's at risk of just like buying into it all over again. He's not taking it down. He's like adding to it, like he's making it better. So once he kind of realizes that, which is not a spoiler because it's like on page 1 of the next issue, he decides he has to actually get off the show and figure out another angle to this whole thing. So that's the into the streets aspect of it, where he's gonna, instead of trying to like change the minds of that 1% of people that like eat up Starve, he's gonna try to like empower everybody else.
Yeah, take it to a macro level.
Very cool.
Not that the show goes away, but he's trying different angles. So you get a lot more of like the street Gavin, like the guy with the baseball bat and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah. Conan Gavin, but not really, because apparently Conan a small segment of Conan fans are terrible. Let me put that disclaimer out.
Yeah.
But so thanks again for coming on, Brian. Again, issue 6 of Starve is out Wednesday, February 17th. This episode, of course, posts on the 13th, and that's when you can get Starve Volume 1 in comic book shops everywhere or on Comixology. Thanks again, Brian.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, bye. What a friendly bloke.
Yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention while we were talking to him, I've actually met him before. While I was working at Midtown Comics when I was up in New York, the Massive, I think it was when the trade was coming out, he had a big signing at Midtown Comics, and I was there videotaping it. And I think the video is still available on Midtown Comics' YouTube channel.
Oh, there you have it. Yeah.
Back when I was doing their video work for them.
Right. The Massive is a scary book, because you're reading that and it's like, oh shit, this could all like very ostensibly like happen.
Yeah.
You could say that about like the DMZ to a lesser degree, but the Massive is like if like an inconvenient truth just completely like
was true.
But reached its like natural conclusion. It's like the ramifications of that. But man, yeah.
I have a poster of it with him with his signature somewhere. Still in a box probably, because half of my stuff still hasn't been unpacked, even though I've lived here for 2 years now.
Yeah, and I know he was kind of like downplaying his Marvel work. I mean, obviously you like his like
his Moon Knight was good stuff. Yeah,
and I liked his X-Men stuff, and I'm pretty decent. I'm pretty well versed on the X-Men. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was cool. He made Jubilee cool, which is kind of a hard thing to do.
Do you know how much that arcade machine costs? Yeah, $0.25. Sorry, it's one of her first lines from the cartoons.
Night of the Sentinels, yeah. But no, I mean, so yeah, definitely go check out those books. What have you guys been up to since the last week?
Well, I saw The Big Short.
What'd you think?
Yeah, now I'm like up to snuff with you guys on that. I enjoyed it. I thought that it was a nice way to portray the horrific events of the mid-aughts. Or I guess, mid-aughts. Yeah,
2008.
Yeah. I mean, I went into it already kind of hating banks and left still hating banks. Probably hating banks more.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then my real only gripe about it was the one thing that you all warned me about, that the camera just moves way too much.
Yeah, I know. I know that was Jake's big complaint with it.
Yeah. It wasn't a documentary, so let's not film it like it is.
Yeah, it wasn't a Bourne movie either.
Yeah,
seriously.
Even it wasn't The Office, even though Steve Carell was in it.
Yeah, doing whatever kind of accent impression that is. I did see Spotlight since the last, and
That's right.
yeah, it was really good. I think the big thing for me in Spotlight is, despite tackling a very serious subject matter, it's never unwatchable. Like, they never try to sensationalize it. They're just like, this is what happened, this is what we reported, and this is, what...
Like good reporting should be.
They try to stay as objective as possible.
That's how I felt about it as well.
Yeah. So I think it's, apparently it's between that and The Big Short for the Academy Award. So that's going to be, though they won't officially announce the nominees until tomorrow, the day after this thing posts.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they.
Yeah. By the time
nominate.
this thing posts, we'll know who won what for Golden Globes, but it's the Golden Globes. So.
Yeah.
I just hope Stallone wins for supporting, and that that starts the train moving for his Oscar, because that'd just be so freaking cool.
Yeah. And I was happy to see. Though one thing I did notice is Ennio Morricone did win Best Original Score for The Hateful Eight, and I thought that was his most. Certainly is. Well, he hasn't done much full scores lately because he's like.
But it's really, really good.
It's a good.
Indeed.
Would you? I mean, I don't think the film would operate anywhere near as good if that score wasn't.
Yeah. No, that especially that overture. Like, I feel bad for the people that don't see it at the Roadshow or at the Alamo in DC.
Well, speaking of the Roadshow, you guys saw the AFI Roadshow.
Yeah.
I'm glad I finally got to see it, because that was, out of everything coming out this year, when I found out about it at Comic-Con, I made a mental note. You have to see this, and damn it, Josh, you will fucking hate yourself if you don't. So see it.
Yeah. And Josh and I had kind of planned to have a mandate that day, and I was like, we can either go see Hateful Eight or Star Wars, because I want to see both of them in their proper, quote unquote proper 70mm format. And it was like either we go up to Silver Spring to see it at AFI, because I don't trust Tyson's to do a good job presenting it, because I'm a jerk like that when it comes to movies. Or it was go to the Lockheed Martin IMAX theater at the Smithsonian in DC to see the IMAX version of Star Wars, because it's a waste seeing it in a fake IMAX, like Tyson's. Basically, I don't like the Tyson's theater guys.
We've shredded on them, I feel like.
That's the the second time I saw the Hateful Eight Roadshow was at Tyson's Corner. Near as I could tell, the presentation went fine. But
I mean, again, it's just me being a film snob. Yeah. I'm sure Tyson's does a good job. I just it's. But
you guys got curtains.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
the AFI Silver Spring.
Yeah, and which was pretty fancy. I liked how the curtains were timed with the start of the movie. It opened up like it was a play, and it closed for the intermission, opened back up, all that stuff. It was really nice. That theater in general, I like it a lot, and so it was a fun experience seeing it there. Josh, what did you think? That was your first time seeing it.
Right, and I have to say, for the theater, just because they had, moving columns on the opposite ends of the screen that retracted, and then the screen pulled out more to, fully expand.
Like a scroll.
Yeah, exactly. That was another thing. Like, instead of just bringing down the top masking and bringing up the bottom masking to fit the proper aspect ratio, the sides of the screen actually opened up more by these columns rotating out of the way to give you a broader frame to work with.
Yeah, and hearing that overture when it started, I thought, this this doesn't feel like a Western. It feels more, it felt like a supernatural kind of film, just based upon that overture, which I got goosebumps from it.
And rumor has it Quentin's next genre to tackle is going to be more supernatural.
Yeah, like he wants to make something in the same vein of The Exorcist, which, if he does, I'm going to camp out for that film.
There you go. I did also, just earlier today before we started recording, I did end up seeing Star Wars at Lockheed Martin. I took my dad to see it for their one of their final showings of it, because they're closing down that IMAX theater to upgrade the projectors this week.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It was awesome seeing it IMAX in a proper IMAX theater. Fun fact: the first flight of the Falcon in the movie, full IMAX aspect ratio.
And they filmed some of it in IMAX, so I would be surprised if that was among.
Oh, so they pulled like a Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Kinda, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and like it was like halfway through that scene, I realized that it was in the IMAX ratio, and I was like, has the whole movie been like this? And like I started like trying to think back, and I was like, I don't remember when it started, or if it's been like that the entire time. And then basically right up until they escape Jakku and they get picked up by Han Solo, it drops back down to like a standard like 2.35 by 1, and it didn't go back, and I was kind of sad. I was like, I was at least hoping like the final scene, the main fight at the end, to be in IMAX, or some of those space shots. But
yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
But no, that's cool though. I got to see Creed with my dad.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was very good. It was only the second time I saw that film. Even though it only been like a couple months, I forgot how awesome that movie is. And Lordy Lord, it's like, yeah, that tops Mad Max, that tops Ex Machina, that tops so much.
Oh yeah,
so good. Top Spotlight.
Topped it all for me.
Yeah, yeah,
top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
yeah.
What?
Soup to nuts. I saw
First home appearance of the Three Stooges.
I saw Django, the original Django, for the first time. The 1966. I bought it when I was at Barnes & Noble. They had, I don't think they had a sale, but I had like a gift card from Christmas or whatever, and so I got the Wild Bunch, the Sam Peckinpah film on Blu-ray, and I saw Django like as I was like in the Western. And I was like, oh sweet, 'cause I'd never seen it, and it's in like spaghetti Western terms, it's top notch, man. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun, and so the spaghetti Western is such a great kind of like checklist of what makes those movies so fantastic. Like the dubbing is such a charm that it adds to it. Kind of like the cheap effects of like a movie serial. At the time the movie was like ultra violent. What he has in the coffin and what he uses, and Franco Nero's character of Django is like the coolest dude.
Yeah, got those piercing baby blues.
Yeah.
And the thing about Corbucci, unlike Sergio Leone, both of their first names are Sergio.
That must have been confusing.
Yeah, popular time in Italy to
Like,
name your boys Sergio.
Sergio. No. The director. No. The director of spaghetti westerns. No. Oh, Jesus.
But
yes, they turn around at the dinner table. Sergio 1 and Sergio 2.
They have like the Thing 1, Thing 2 shirts.
They have like the he farted shirt or whatever.
But Corbucci's...
I'm with Sergio.
I'm with Sergio. But I'm Sergio.
What's the two guys in The Dark Knight Returns? Hi, my name is it Bob and...
Oh, the yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's Rob.
Spud or
Rob.
something like that.
Yeah,
Rob is
of them's
one.
Rob.
Is the other one Bob? Is it Rob and Bob?
It's
I think it
probably.
is.
I,
Yeah.
don't know. I think one of them's Rob.
I never got that.
Yeah,
just
I
got
think again Frank Miller being like, "Hey, it's the future.
Yeah, they do it.
They shiv.
Everyone's
They don't
stupid.
shiv. They
Yeah,
dusted."
Everyone wears visors. Arcades are still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the thing about Corbucci films is, generally speaking, they're more violent than Leone's.
Yeah, I mean, Django gets his hands mangled.
Crushed, yeah.
Yeah, and the end of that movie is so freaking cool, man.
Mm.
I mean, in terms of not even just spaghetti westerns. I mean, I don't want to say that like it means it's some kind of like down thing, because it's not. I think spaghetti, the really good spaghetti westerns are some of the best just movies around. But I mean, I enjoyed the hell of it. Like we were talking about a top 10 list. thinking about it a couple days, like I'd probably put Django on my
top 10 westerns of all time.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably put Django on there.
Interesting.
Yeah, really, just to you know,
you need to watch The Great Silence.
Yeah. But I like the simple aspects of spaghetti westerns. They're not trying to fucking remake the wheel here, you know.
They aren't. But something they did that American westerns weren't doing at the time is they weren't afraid to show the West as a brutal, nasty place.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like that added to the simplicity of it. You know, they weren't like there wasn't. You know, I mean, I love good like crazy epic films, but like, you know, they're just like, hey, dude walks into the town, isn't supposed to be there, doesn't want to be there, saves the day, walks away.
Yeah, kind of stumbles into the action.
Mm-hmm.
Like Knight Rider.
Exactly. Exactly.
Knight Rider is a perfect western.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Even the remake.
There's a remake? Oh, yeah, there
Oh,
was.
Jesus.
I expunged that.
We were supposed to forget about that, Josh.
Yeah.
Way to
Sorry.
be a harbinger of doom.
You're like...
You're damn welcome.
You're like you're like Recall and Total Recall. You're triggering memory caps that weren't supposed to be.
Recall.
Yeah.
That
You're
is
right, guys. I actually had a photo with that damn car at Comic-Con.
That's cool.
Oh, Kit? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've had a picture with...
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I just got a tweet that Sly won.
Oh.
And they played the Rocky theme, and everyone gave me a standing ovation.
Oh,
Nice.
That's really sweet.
Oh.
Thanks for the tweet, Mom, or the text.
I was
That makes me very happy.
I was going to mention that Sin Cara has already favorited
I
our
did. Yeah, I
tweet.
saw that. Yeah, we're famous, man. We're fucking famous, man.
Jake and I have matching Sin Cara and Callisto masks.
Well, Jake, you know what this means now, right?
What does that mean?
Today, Golden Globes. Tomorrow, the Oscars.
It's got to be, man. Like, think about it again. This dude, 40 years ago, now we can say, Rocky comes out. He's nominated for Best Actor. Doesn't win, right?
Who did he lose to?
For Best Actor in 76?
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know.
It would be like, let's see what else was up. All the President's Men.
It wasn't De Niro for Taxi Driver, which is amazing.
It wasn't Dog Day Afternoon.
No, because that was 70. That was 75.
Well, what about Network?
It might have been Network.
Peter Finch?
It might have been the. It might have been that. But hang on a second.
But yeah, so you were
So yeah,
saying...
no, it's cool because like, you know, and to think the possibility that 40 years later, he plays Rocky and gets nominated for an Oscar again and wins. Like that writes itself, man. That's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I hope it happens. And usually when you win a Golden Globe, it's a good sign that you're gonna take the cake.
And then Damon won for The Martian.
Did he? Okay, cool,
Yeah.
nice.
And apparently half of the Golden Globe banquet hall just went Matt Damon.
Really?
At a certain point, like he's apparently like on very good terms, like maybe even friends with with Matt and Trey
Oh, really?
from South Park, who of course created Team America.
Yeah.
It's been a decade, over a decade.
Eventually, it becomes not funny.
Yeah,
And that was like 8 years ago.
I mean, it's either that or we get the, hey, Hollywood, how much have we spent rescuing him? I think it's time to put the budget into something else. Yeah. Maybe money to keep him from being rescued.
To strand him out places?
Yes.
because it's not that's not
A
cheap.
film where we strand
Yeah, so
Matt Damon somewhere and he's unrescuable.
so like a remake of Castaway,
Yes.
where he just
Only he
loses
doesn't.
at the end.
Yeah. Yes.
Put him in the Hateful Eight.
There you go.
Spoilers. Everybody fucking dies in the Hateful Eight.
Gloriously. Yeah.
Literally everybody.
You were there.
Yeah. You don't see Chris Mannix or Major Marquise Warren die, but it's pretty clear that they're probably not going to make it out.
Because I've read like the differences of like how the original script draft was and what was filmed, and they kind of make it sound like in the original draft, yes, everyone's very, very dead at the end.
The last man standing is Chris Mannix in the original script, but he's shot pretty severely and bleeding out.
Yeah,
It's really hard to survive a gunshot wound in the Old West.
true, but
Especially when you're stranded in a haberdashery for 3 days.
yeah,
Because only like a couple hours had passed, and that they were pretty sure that blizzard was going to lock them there for like 3 days, and like a day without medical attention for those kinds of shots was a death sentence.
Yeah, they make it sound like one of the glaring differences between the two films is like more people survive in the end of the one that was filmed and released.
I mean, I guess you could argue that
They don't read
at the end of this, at the end of the movie, there are two survivors because we don't actually see them go ugh and die.
Yeah.
But that's like
It's
they
like
still died.
in your mind, because we don't see it happen either. In your mind, does Keith David and Kurt Russell survive the thing? Because they're both alive, sitting there in the snow.
I never watched the thing to the end.
Oh,
shit.
Oh,
We gotta watch. We gotta.
You
pick
know
that
what we're
for
picking for
first?
next Halloween?
Yeah, the thing.
I have that
All
on-
versions of
All of them. The original John Carpenter's and the reboot, sequel, prequel, remake. The thing.
Hey, gentlemen,
To be fair, I have the original and John Carpenter's on Laserdisc.
gentlemen, do you,
Hey,
do you,
hi,
you
hi,
want to
hi.
see something that would basically look like the consistency of clam chowder shooting out of my mouth?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're
you're
probably going to
not-
get that if I have to watch the thing.
You're not selling me.
But
I mean,
if
the thi-
you-
I
here's
didn't
the
pay
thing.
for that microphone.
Yeah, here's the thing, and you got a guard on it. Man. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Hey,
Thing is.
yeah. Oh God.
The thing is something that just makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah. If you play the video game, which I own, which is actually really cool because it's like fear. It's like there's like a monitor kind of like for fear and like trust and blah 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 because you don't know who's who.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, you're in a helicopter and you're fighting giant thing as it's like become a giant monster and you're shooting and then you turn
the
to
thing
the
ring did its
yeah
thing.
exactly. You turn to the helicopter pilot and you're like, hey, thanks, man. What's your name? He's like, oh, R.J. McCready is the helicopter pilot. And that was supposed to be a canon that R.J. McCready survives as helicopter pilot. I think, I could be wrong, but John Carpenter was like, no. Because like it is, if and I'm not like joking about it because I love R.J. McCready's character, is that, either him or Keith David or Kurt Russell or Keith David are pretty much probably the thing,
Keith David maintains that he was not the thing.
But the
at
thing
the
would,
end of
the thing would say that though.
That
The thing
like
would.
I follow.
Chris,
I follow
I don't know
him-
if you're the thing.
I follow him. You don't. Let's
Yeah.
do the blood test.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Someone-
I appreciate what you're doing, but someone get me off this fucking couch.
That's one of the best scenes in fucking
It
movie
is.
history,
It is.
dude.
I've seen that movie so many times, and I still
Sorry,
get
Josh, you're just, like,
surprised.
going crazy about this
I
movie.
still get surprised when the
Oh, it's the
thing
best.
pops
Well,
up.
you know what's genius about that? Really quick, here's what makes John Carpenter so fucking cool: is the scene where when you see Kurt Russell holding the
thing.
petri dish,
Uh-huh.
right? The hand is fake, right? And you know it's fake. But what he does is he shows you the fake hand multiple scenes before it actually needs to be used.
Mhm.
So you're used to the fake hand being there. So like
Yeah.
if his hand was real for most of the shot, you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's fake. You're like, whoa, wait a second. But for a good chunk of that scene, it's fake. So you're like, okay, you get used to it and you're like, wait, why is that? Oh God. And then when the blood spurts out, you're like, oh shit, and the flamethrower.
Shit.
But yeah, I mean, the end of the thing, I like to think that not that it's fun,
Yeah.
but that they both die.
Yeah.
In to save the
there's-
fucking world.
Yeah, there's no way to rescue them anyway.
Exactly.
But no, like so I follow Keith David on
Me too.
Twitter, and like not a week goes by
Really?
where someone doesn't
Oh,
like
God.
question his being the thing, and he like and he'll respond with, no, I wasn't. I don't know about Kurt Russell,
Yeah.
but I wasn't the thing.
I-
then someone will be like, that's just what
What
the
the-
thing would say, and he's like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I did talk to him once on Twitter about Spawn because he's
Yeah.
the voice of
Oh,
Spawn.
my
and he's
God.
perfect.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're bringing him back and he's going to be Spawn again.
Yeah.
Because like talk about like Kevin Conroy's like the Batman,
Mhm.
dude. Keith David is the Spawn.
Yeah.
He's
Like,
also the Arbiter.
yeah.
Yeah, if you're a nerd.
Halo 2.
He's
For
also
everyone that doesn't know what
he also
Josh is,
plays
Halo 2.
himself in Saints Row 4.
And he's
Yes.
somebody,
And
he's
yes, he
somebody on
does.
Gargoyles.
And I
that
thanked
everyone's
him.
Like, oh my god, he's so cool.
And I thanked him on Twitter for saving my life in that game, and he responded with, "You're welcome."
He's great in that
He's
game.
Keith David's the man.
Yeah.
So even if Keith David was the thing, I wouldn't care.
yeah.
Just be like, dude, eat
I
me and then
think
imitate me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I'd thank him for being the thing.
Yeah, and then also he's in They Live, dude. I mean, come on.
You'd shake his
Yeah.
hand and he would bite it off.
Yeah. His stomach would open. It just yeah. Spider head and everything.
Yeah, not gonna watch it.
Spiderhead thing.
Some of the best
Top-notch creature.
real
effects.
deal effects
Yeah,
you'll
but
ever
those
see.
are. It's like the same reason why I won't watch The Fly.
Have you
to
seen?
the end?
Oh, the flies. Have you seen any of the thing?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't? Because I know.
You did not spoil it for
No,
me.
I know that, but like. The one thing, like gross stuff aside, the thing that I don't think you'd be able to is the dog stuff.
Mhm.
You didn't see any of that stuff, did you?
No,
You
I
did?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, that's right up there with the fucking gross stuff. That's not beyond. That's not
I know, but
of
like, you know.
the. Oh, I hate seeing that happen to dogs. No, that's fucking disgusting.
I mean,
man.
that was the idea, though.
Yeah.
Was to make it as
And the
gross
fact
as
that they
possible.
used
Yeah.
they use like a hand for like the
Yeah.
head of the dog, so it moves organically, not like like robotically. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Do you know that they
Let's watch
did?
The Thing.
Yeah, I love the.
I mean,
Thing.
that's right out there
You
with
want
like
to watch the thing? You
Cronenberg.
live here now.
I know,
Or, well,
yeah.
you live
Work.
like in the neighborhood now.
Yeah.
We can watch the
And
thing
that's
whenever
the
you
kind
want.
of stuff that I just it's right up there with stuff in horror I avoid.
No, I
And
respect
yet
it, man.
He has no problem with Rob Zombie's Halloween.
the.
Well, no, he did, but Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That's a whole
That's the
other
brutal
fucking thing.
motherfucker,
Holy
but
shit!
Yeah, but
Did you know that John Carpenter shot an alternate ending just in case the studio was unhappy with how dark and nihilistic the original Thing ending was, where McCready gets rescued and they administer a blood test to prove he's human?
I
Glad
did
that
not.
didn't happen. But
I don't know
yeah.
if that's on any of the DVDs or.
I haven't seen it on the comment.
Check. I have the Blu-ray
anytime
right over there.
Anytime Kurt Russell and John Carpenter are together for a commentary, or if they have a movie where they do a commentary, even if you've never seen the movie, buy it for the commentary alone, because those two are the kings of commentary.
yeah, but I mean, like the violence
the
and
way.
like the Hateful Eight. You know,
Mhm.
when we get to see pretty much what it looks like if someone gets sprayed with ragu sauce.
Is it
It's fake enough that I'm okay with it.
with the Thing? Is it that it's like so otherworldly?
No, because I can deal like with a xenomorph.
It's the gore,
from
isn't it?
Alien.
It's the gore.
Yeah, it's how well done the creature effects
So it's
are.
if anything, it's a compliment that you don't want to watch the Thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell you. Yeah, good.
Yes,
good.
your effects creep me out so much.
Yeah.
I can't watch
Yeah,
it.
the Thing when it's like a dog thing, when it's like with the tentacles. That's one of the best parts
Any
of the movie.
things. Like
yeah.
I'd rather watch the Blob
Yeah, well,
than it.
yeah.
How funny, with the
You don't want to
Blob.
watch it either?
Oh, I can watch it.
This is
Yeah.
battery
I-
acid.
I don't
That's
have
the
a
only
fear
line
of
I remember
clowns.
from that movie.
How
In
funny
fact, I kind of laugh at sometimes at people that have a fear of clowns.
is it? Funny that the monster,
funny.
the Thing in the Thing, is just referred to as the Thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like that they're gonna sit around and be like, "All right, guys, so
We need a name. For
let's call it the Babadook."
Hey, by the way, Jake.
Hey, man, I gotta run real quick, so I can't take any notes right now. But call me later. We can figure this out.
do you think you could house sit for me?
I don't know, man. I got.
It'd be real easy, real quick. The only thing that you need to do is just once a day. You got to go out to the garden out back.
Mm-hmm.
Just dig up some mud.
Okay.
Make sure it's full of worms.
Worms. Okay.
Yeah, and then I just need you to walk
Baby
down.
worms. Because baby worms are just called worms.
No, preferably adult worms,
Adult
like
worms.
the biggest worms you can find.
Size,
Like 3 inches.
girth.
Okay.
Okay.
You know,
I got you. I feel you. I feel you.
like my dick.
Okay. Okay.
And then I just
So a triumphant bastard.
yeah. I need you to put it all in a bowl.
Bowl.
Head
Wood bowl. Steel bowl. Plastic bowl.
first bowl you can find. It
Okay.
doesn't really matter.
Clean.
I mean it's got dirt in it now,
Oh,
so it
okay.
doesn't really.
I mean, that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Just take it out into the basement
Okay.
and just leave it kind of in the middle.
Okay. Is there a pet?
Sort of.
Okay.
I have a Babadook.
Oh shit. Hey.
Yeah.
I can't. As you were talking to me, I was seeing if I can get someone to cover my shifts.
Right.
And I work really late, and I can't do it.
I'm just curious because I didn't see you looking down at your phone. I
just remembered.
But you said you were trying to get people to cover. So like, did they respond to you a while ago and you just or are you lying?
No. Well, like here's the funny thing. Like, my Wi-Fi is a little weird, and
Well, you can hook up to my Wi-Fi.
or let me check it right now. Then.
Yeah.
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Oh, darn. Okay, yeah. He definitely said you got to come in.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I need someone to look after my Babadook.
Have you tried Josh? He lives down the street.
Hey, Josh. You're not gonna play.
Oh, wait, and hey, take him this copy of The Thing.
Yeah, can you just watch the thing with my Babadook?
Yeah.
Just sit and watch the. That's the best. This point of view. All right, Babadook. This is the part where the guy's stomach opens. Babadook. Stop talking to the fucking movie.
Duke.
Yeah.
God, that was so stupid.
Yeah. Indeed.
But so worth it.
But yeah, I love The Thing.
It's fantastic.
It's a great movie.
It's one of my favorite horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I'm still gonna give it to Big Trouble as my favorite Carpenter, and my favorite Carpenter horror is still like original Halloween.
Big Trouble.
Maybe
Hey,
I'll
little China.
pick that for my birthday. You can pick we can make it a Carpenter birthday.
That's fine with me, man.
Birthday with the Carpenter.
You know what's one? Like I own both and I've seen both, but I haven't watched Escape from New York in such a long time.
It's a good one,
yeah,
man.
I need
It's
to
a
watch
good
that
one.
again.
Oh,
You know the
yeah.
woman who gets dragged into the floor is like was Kurt Russell's wife at the time,
Yeah.
and so they're watching it when the commentary, and it's not his wife anymore, and they're just like, oh yeah, okay, you know, like it's like that was my wife.
There she goes. And John Carpenter's ex-wife is in that movie too. Adrienne.
But the great thing is they talk
from
about
Swamp Thing.
they. Oh my God, yeah, you see her titties. They talk about stuff like you were there. So they'll be like, "Hey man, remember the rap party for the thing?" And you're just like, "Oh shit, I feel like I'm hanging out with them."
It's
And
probably what commentaries with us feel like.
probably, but like it's like way cool and awesome because it's Kurt Russell and John Carpenter.
Yeah, definitely not what commentaries with us sound like.
Yeah, so none of the above. We'll get Kurt Russell one of these days.
Yeah.
And
Johnny Carps.
John
Johnny
Carp.
Carps.
John Carp is doing his.
John Carp.
Yeah, I call him JC.
Yeah.
He could have been Jesus.
Could have. He's got a beard.
Yeah.
But the
He's got that. He's got that.
That was
very,
one of the
very prominent stash.
when Passion of the Christ came out. I forget who said it, but someone was like, "Oh, Jim Caviezel. He's got the right initials to play Jesus."
that's all Gibson was looking for, man. But it's half the job.
I was one letter off.
But
Sorry, I was 2 letters off.
Oh, also, when that movie come out, 2004.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I would have been
In high school still.
18.
yeah,
18
Wait, it
year old
came out in
Jesus.
2004?
yep.
Yeah,
Ah, I graduated.
me too. Yeah.
I'm like the only one that didn't graduate in 2004.
I graduated 2005.
Well, that's why I said like the only one.
Just putting that out there. But the
I don't remember how old you guys are.
yeah, the
Old.
Anyway.
Old but not obsolete.
Not yet. No,
Yeah.
it's not the
If I
years.
may- If I may quote Terminator Genesis.
Well, if I can quote Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's not the years, it's the mileage.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you guys
Just like Poon.
yeah, sure,
uh-huh.
fine. But you guys got anything to add?
Uh,
I think because I don't think we can top that.
I got nothing.
I finally beat Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Any good?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you cool with them taking a full year to work on the follow up
Yes. Oh God, yes, I am. And especially if,
after Unity?
especially if the DLC they released for it isn't like any of the DLC they put with Syndicate, because Syndicate's a great game. The DLC for it's absolute trash.
Really? Because it's Jack the Ripper and he's usually cool.
Yeah, no, the Jack
Not
the Ripper.
that I condone his actions, but like it's
No,
like,
the Jack the Ripper DLC, it's like, hey, you know everything you just learned through Syndicate? We're going to take all the stuff that made that fun away from you. We're going to give you a few toys, and then we're going to give you a brand new system you have to learn for this DLC. And it's like, that's not... You know what? Fuck it. You guys made Unity. You're allowed to continue fucking up.
all right. Well, here to hear her first, folks. Get Syndicate, but don't get the DLC.
Unless you're a glutton for punishment.
Well,
That's Sam to a T.
yeah, I can. I like playing Mega Man because I'm not good at it doesn't mean I don't like it. But
Like Battle.
Yeah,
Hey, I may not like it, but I respect it.
fair enough. If you guys at home have never heard Elecman's stage music from the original Mega Man, listen to that and then listen to Faithfully by Journey, and you'll understand exactly what I'm saying.
And then watch Hateful Eight.
Yeah, too bad the Roadshow's gone. Yeah, you guys had the
Yeah.
chance. It was around for 3 weeks,
Yep.
but yeah,
It's all right. Star Wars is still out though.
yeah,
Yeah.
that ain't going away. Yeah. I was happy to see that was still in theaters.
And
Yeah.
Deadpool comes out in just about a month.
Woo!
it's
Yay, birthday.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be pretty sweet, man. It's the next big one I'm looking forward to.
It's the next big IMAX one.
Yeah,
Well, next big one in general, but
right.
yeah. But next IMAX movie.
Fingers crossed for IMAX-sized chimichangas.
If by that you mean wangs.
Yes, that too.
It is an R-rated film. But anyway, so this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
I'm Josh.
Go read Starve.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Pana.
Damn, that beat was dope.